Have you ever delegated a project that didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, and you were left thinking, man, I should have just done that myself? That is a common sentiment with a lot of our clients. I'm here today with Jill Mueller, and we are going to discuss delegation.
Yeah. And Amy, even just as I hear you say that, it's something we hear a lot from our clients. It's something that you and I deal with so often too, right? Like when we're handing tasks on and off. And so one of the things that we have developed is this idea of 3 degrees of delegation. And the reason we look at it as 3 degrees of delegation is not all delegation is the same. Sometimes, as the delegator, you just want to get a project off your plate. Here, go take it. There are other times you're expecting to be very much more involved. And as a delegatee, the same thing can be present. And so, looking at these 3 degrees of delegation, the first one is looking at this idea of hands on guidance. And you can see from the visual here, when we're looking at hands on guidance, this is where the delegator, if we're looking at the delegator as person A and the delegatee as person B, there's a lot going on at the same time. They're working together. The expectation is that the manager or whoever's delegating in this case will be involved. There's going to be training involved. There's going to be a lot of discussion about what needs to happen and a lot of check-ins. And that sometimes is necessary when you delegate, but where things can go awry is when the delegatee doesn't realize that you're going to be involved that much. And that's when the M word comes into play. Amy, have you ever dealt with the micromanager?
I wish I could say no, but yes, I have dealt with a micromanager. And I think one of the things that bothers myself and others is that I want to do it my way and I want to be creative and I want to try a new technology, a new strategy, and that doesn't always go over well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in that first degree delegation, that creativity, that innovation, it's not necessarily there. Now, where it maybe comes more into play is when we look at the second degree delegation, then. This is what we look at as collaborative support. And with collaborative support, what you can see those circles separate out a little bit more. There's a clear definition of the objectives. There's a clear definition of what needs to happen, maybe even what the plan is, what the milestones are, what the benchmarks are coming. But in this case, once we get to second degree, the the delegatee is taking that initiative. And then once we get to third degree delegation, that's really when we get to this place of trusted autonomy where we're saying here's what needs to get done. Here's the deadline where it needs to be done by. Go off and run with it, right? And so like be creative, do your thing. And so 1 degree of delegation is not inherently worse or better than the other. It depends on the situation. It depends on the task. It depends on how well the employee or the delegatee is ready to take on that task. And the other part of delegation that we don't always talk about is it is that how willing is the delegator willing to let that go, so that they don't get that sense of micromanaging, but really being upfront. If you're going to be involved along the way, you're going to be involved along the way compared to if you're just throwing that task to the other person.
And sometimes that level of micromanaging or walking with you is helpful, right? If it's a big task that you're kind of overwhelmed. I know you've used the analogy of passing a baby from one person to the other, that at one moment you are both holding on to the baby. And if it's something that's scary or new, or you want to make sure you do it just right, you know, sometimes that level of micromanagement is reassuring.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not micromanaging if everybody's on the same page of like, this
Mhm.
is what we're doing. And yeah, that baby metaphor of, okay, I'm holding the baby. I'm transferring this over to you now. Like, are you holding the head? You got this. Don't forget hold the legs, I don't know, whatever it is, not a baby person. Um, but there's a difference between that and like, for example, in our company, we talked about our social media sort of program as a baby, right? That, okay, as a new person's taking that on, we're not just throwing it to them in the way that we might with third degree delegation. There's a little bit of time. You got to make sure you got that baby, you have it going on. So if you struggle with delegation, you're not alone. It is so tricky to walk that line between giving enough trust and giving too much trust. To say, okay, here's exactly what needs to happen without saying, here's exactly what needs to happen, everything that you need to do. Really, the key is being clear on what degree of delegation is everybody expecting. If one person's expecting third degree and the other person is expecting first degree, that's when you're going to run into trouble. So if you can define that up front, the better off you'll be. And this is really just one more example of what we do with teams and leaders all the time. It's about setting expectations. It's about communicating. It's about having those tough decisions or tough conversations early on so that you don't have to deal with it later on. So we encourage you to go off and try this. Go talk about delegations, set those expectations up front. If there's anything we can do to help along the way, don't hesitate to reach out. It's what we love to do. Have a great day.